If articles of impeachment are approved in the House, then it moves to the Senate where there's a trial. The Senate is closely divided. Republicans have 53 seats in the Senate, which means that they can pretty much make the rules the way they want to make the rules, provided they can hold on to almost every member of the Senate. In Clinton's trial, both the Democratic and Republican leaders, at the time it was Trent Lott, who was the Senate Majority Leader, and Tom Daschle, who was the Democratic leader, got together and arrived at a workable set of rules that both sides could live with. And that's the kind of thing that McConnell has said, at least, he would try to work out with Chuck Schumer. They probably don't have as good a relationship as Lott and Daschle did 20 years ago. There are rules, existing rules about the process, including how it is to begin with the House managers coming over and reading the articles of impeachment in the Senate. And there are provisions for allowing evidence to be introduced and witnesses to be questioned. But all of these rules, unlike a regular courtroom, when a judge makes a ruling, are subject to being overridden by a majority of the Senate. And that's why it's really important what the Senate itself agrees to do and what the two parties agree to. The trial would basically take place on television, as the Clinton impeachment trial did. There would be presumably opening arguments on both sides. There would be a chance for the senators, the jurors, the senators themselves to question both the lawyers for the House and the lawyers for the president. There might be witnesses called. That's something that would be worked out. In the Clinton impeachment trial, for instance, there were 3 witnesses, but none of whom testified publicly. They were all questioned privately. Their depositions were videotaped, and then excerpts of those were played at the trial. The person who's impeached is called upon to answer the charges, the person or someone representing the person. And of course, in past impeachments, it's been the designated representative lawyers who have come and handled the defense in the Senate trial. But there's nothing in the rules to preclude the president himself from coming over and essentially saying, "I'm not guilty," or whatever he might say. And then there would be arguments made based on the evidence. There's closing arguments. Each of these steps could take several days, even up to a week. The Senate vote eventually on the articles of impeachment is done in public, but the deliberations may not be done in public. They weren't done publicly when President Clinton was impeached. Those were done behind closed doors, and then the Senate came back, and each member, when called upon, stood at his or her desk and pronounced guilty or not guilty. Once the Senate votes on the articles of impeachment, if the Senate acquits on any or all charges, and it takes a 2/3 vote of the Senate to convict, if the Senate acquits, then the trial ends and the president continues in office. If there's a vote to convict, if 2/3 of the Senate votes to convict on any one of the articles, however many there might be, then the president is automatically removed from office. That's specified in the Constitution, and the vice president would become president. Presumably that would happen very quickly, but we would be in uncharted waters if we came to that point.